Oh my god, have we got some great footage for you today? Smasho here, bringing you today's daily space weather from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. We've got some fresh crown prominence activity hanging around the southern heliographic pole. Something that we typically see associated with high levels of solar activity, but we see low levels of solar activity. A new sunspot forming right here. It's quite interesting, and it's at a very high latitude. That means close to the pole. Also, we've got a huge prominence up in the northwest. Huge filaments, likelihood of coronal mass ejections remains nearly 100%. Comet diving, sun diving comets, and plenty more to cover on today's video. So sunspot number here continues to drop, but we do have this new group forming down here. You'll see right down here some rapidly evolving sunspots happening there. Here's colorized magnetogram, and possibly some new activity here rising in the east. And let's briefly look at volcanoes to see what's been erupting here on the Earth side of things. Chicharachki is exploding. It's producing a 14,000-foot ash plume. Mount Alade is exploding. 13,000-foot ash plume, flight level 130. 7,000-foot ash plume from Sakurajima. Unknown volcanic ash plume from Subanose-jima, although it has exploded. Mount Ibu exploded, 7,000-foot ash plume from it. Semaru exploding, at least erupting, 12,000-foot plume of volcanic ash, flight level 120. Flight level 150 at Fuego in Guatemala. Flight level 230 at Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia. 23,000-foot ash plume over Sangay in Ecuador. 16,000-foot ash plume as Revenador also explodes. Flight level 160. Continuous ash emissions from Sabancaya. And no emission detected from Nevada State, Chile, and don't assume that it's not erupting. Earthquake activity has been low here over the past 24 hours. The largest quake was only, I think, a 5.1 at Timor-Leste. Let's scroll up the list. And I know you, the viewer, will let us know if we miss anything by leaving a comment. And thanks everybody who has left comments over the past several years. So Guam saw a 5.0 and Timor-Leste saw a 5.1. Those quakes happening only within a half an hour of each other. Besides that, again, things pretty calm here over the past 24 hours. Let us know in the comments if you felt any quakes. And let's get back to space. Space, a frontier. These are the voyages of the YouTube channel Smash-O-Mash, our continuing mission to provide facts, avoid fraud, nonsense, and propaganda and disinformation, and show you the most detailed imagery of the sun and most comprehensive space weather you'll find in the known universe. Let's add 335 angstroms to our 171 angstroms wavelength. We have a little bit of synchronization problems happening there with the two different species of ionized iron. The radio flux has dropped all the way down to 115 solar flux units. There's the 1-year graph. To put that in context, that black line there is the 10.7 centimeter radio flux. NOAA not forecasting any geomagnetic unrest or geomagnetic storms for the coming 3 days. We do have an elevated coronal hole high-speed stream here. We'll get to it. First, let's take a look at earthly geospace. So here's Earth's geomagnetic moment from space, modeled by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. It's showing magnetohydrodynamic pressure out to about 12 Earth diameters. If you want to read about the Space Weather Modeling Framework, head to the Geospace Magnetosphere Movies page and click on Details. You'll find a link that'll show you the data which you can download. Next, Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. This will show you the most likely places to see the aurorae. Also the most likely places to see things like pipeline, railway, and power grid induction. caused by protons from space. So like the last movie, that's the last 4 hours there. And lots of people showing up on the Twitter feed with great imagery of the aurora. Planetary K-index at just over 2 there. Most current reading there, 2.33 for the KP index. It's a geomagnetically calm condition despite that increased high-speed solar wind stream. Current conditions are about 575 kilometers per second for the solar wind velocity. Solar wind density just under 10 protons per cubic centimeter. The rest of that fairly uneventful. We've got shifty fields and a fairly consistent plasma temperature over the past 24 hours. That's the bottom green bar. Next, looking at magnetic data, there are the GOES magnetometers. Pretty smooth here despite that ongoing coronal hole high-speed stream. And it looks like Earth is just snapping into a North Pole current sheet as we stream the video. So this data that we're showing here is 1 hour and 49 minutes old at the time the video was streamed. That North Pole current sheet also shrinking, so expecting to cross back into a South Pole current sheet by the time tomorrow's video comes out, most likely. Bit of magnetic instability happening there in terms of the plasma polarity. Next, our line of sight plot. It shows the sun's B field in blue, the solar magnetogram, and the solar polar fields in red and green. And that's our cue to move to coronal holes. A very important feature of a solar cycle, as coronal holes show us the solar polar field reversal process, which is just as important as the sunspot cycles. So as the solar cycle progresses, the coronal holes reverse and find themselves back at the poles, the opposite poles from where they started. And the sunspots tend to migrate toward the equator. So we're nowhere near solar maximum yet, folks. We've got a couple of years yet. I would also note that the north solar polar field is still partially fixated at the north heliographic pole, as you can see here in the top view ecliptic plane field plot. Let's take a look at some coronal holes here from the perspective of 211 angstroms. And that is a mixed coronal hole there. That is not showing a clear polarity. That one right there. Because if you look, it's not showing up as green or red. I think it's actually North Pole oriented. There's a last frame. You can see a little bit of green showing through there. And there's a lot of plasma in between the Earth and the Sun at the moment. Huge number of filaments. We'll get to that toward the end of the video. Next, sunspots. We've got a new group about to be named down here. That'll be Sunspot 3123. It's looking promising. And as it approaches the limb, the likelihood of it producing large flares goes way up. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one. You'll see it form here in the 1700 angstroms wavelength, right down here by my pointer. And regarding flaring, we haven't seen very many flares at all, just a C-class flare. No relativistic particles showing up. Largest flare of the past 24 hours was definitely this one right here. Peak flux was around 1430 yesterday. It was a C6.1 class flare. We should see it showing up here in the 94 angstroms wavelength. And did it come from this region up here? I think it came from this setting region, sunspot 3112 and 3116. Still producing some flaring activity despite being almost entirely out of sight. Next, we've got a star chart. As we encourage our viewers to look up, you can still see a great Mars and Moon here over the still dark Lehigh Valley. And Deneb has already set over the north-northeastern horizon. Mars there just on the far side of the galactic plane, and the Moon just on this side of the galactic plane. Here's your solar system forecast. I would remind viewers that, once again, that this diagram is not to scale. Jupiter and Saturn are very far from each other and very far from Earth. This is so it can include all the planets here. Let's advance it 1 week. We've got a gibbous waning moon. That's where things will be in a week. Will only be a couple of days from a new moon there on the 23rd. Next, we've got some splentacular sun-diving comet imagery here. So this is yesterday's coronagraphs, and you can see this sun-diving comet coming in right over here in this part of the frame here. Fantastic imagery there, and you can see it shrinking promptly as it gets closer and closer to the solar corona. It's a suicide mission for that comet, it looks like. And here is today's coronagraph imagery. No Earth-directed CMEs, apparently. Let's validate that with some information from Stereo A and some more coronagraphs of the Soho-Lasco C3. So for you new viewers out there, thanks for tuning in. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Earth would be off in this perspective from Stereo A, and it would be behind you from the perspective of the Soho-Lasco C3 at Lagrange 1. And check out that huge prominence. Just hanging out there. That's the sunspot 3112 and 3116, all that plasma. Huge prominence there in the northwestern limb. Again, I would cite that there are no Earth-directed CMEs. Here's a 24-hour series of images from Soho-Lasco C3, Soho-Lasco C2, and SDO 304 angstroms. Just great imagery there of that comet. And how about a zoom in for the tail end of the flight? There you go. See its trajectory shifting a little bit toward the South Pole. And let's continue on as we've got a massive number of filaments here in the earthly portion of the solar disk. Again, you can see this huge filament up here, this crown prominence down here. Crown prominences are always very exciting, folks. We see none of those around solar minimum. Huge number of filaments in both hemispheres. All those dark absorption regions could be headed your way at any moment. Let's take a look at the GOES 16 SUVI. You see all that plasma hanging out down there around the South Pole? That is what we call a crown prominence. We'll be streaming this once again on the Twitch channel. Looks like a flare has just happened, too. No, it's pretty minor. A little bit of activity from there. And here's some higher resolution imagery with a narrower field of view. The SDO for the past 24 hours. Good stuff. And here's the South Polar region. Whole lot of plasma hanging out down there. Continuing on to our bonus feature segment, we see some minor satellite charging hazards caused by low energy electrons there building up on satellite surfaces around Mexico and moving into the Central Pacific. No big deal. And here are the GOES electron flux data from the GOES 16 and GOES 17's radiographic measurements. Pretty low levels of electron flux there, as are typical to coronal hole high-speed streams. There is the NOAA forecast for relativistic electrons. And I think the next yellow diamond is going to be a little bit lower than their green box there. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Here is the 1-year graph of the relativistic electrons, the greater than 2 mega electron volt electron fluence from Solon.info to put it all in context. Quite low levels here of electron flux. Next, the F-ionosphere layer, one slice of the atmosphere, the bridge between Earth and space at about 300 kilometers of altitude. Here is the vibrational frequency of the F layer of the ionosphere. Certainly seeing some anomalies here. Don't worry, we'll show you the anomalygram. Here's the anomaly from the 30-day median. High frequency in blue, low frequency in red. You can see some significant low frequency anomalies happening there in the southern Indian Ocean, the Southern Ocean. Some funky high frequency anomalies happening over the central Indian Ocean. Been seeing that for a few days here. There's the latest image, 10:15 universal time ionogram, 10:15 universal time anomalygram. Next, we're going to show the total electron content forecast, which is going to show the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset. Those free electrons can cause signal refraction, as that satellite has to communicate through a plasmasphere, a Van Allen belt, another plasmasphere, and the ionosphere. PVPI. It's the CTIPE, the coupled thermosphere, ionosphere, plasmasphere electrodynamics. It's literally a count of the free electrons. Quite significant anomalies still happening here. A lot of electrons out of place there, causing GPS errors in perhaps unexpected locations like most of North America. At least most of America. And it looks like perhaps that coronal hole high-speed stream is going to subside here soon, as we look at all the data on the daily videos. So let's take a look at the latest intensitygram and latest colorized magnetogram. So this is pretty exciting. That new sunspot there. It is beta gamma class. I think it's beta gamma delta class. It's beta gamma delta class. So its likelihood of producing large flares is actually kind of high. And is that a sunspot? Nope. Could be turning into one though. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. And let's bring up one more series of images here. This is the 211, 304, and 171 angstroms wavelength from SDO. That's yesterday plus today's data. Which brings us to station identification. Thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network least busted name in news. It's time to transition. Time to transition from space weather to Earth weather. And what better way than to look at the auroral forecast. So before we show the wind maps, we're going to look at the auroral forecast here. There you go. Some significant aurora still happening here associated with this increased coronal hole high-speed stream. There's the northern hemisphere. And let's take a look at winds. There are the surface winds of the eastern world. Strong low here north of the Philippines, in between the Philippines and Taiwan. Here are the 250 hectopascal winds, otherwise known as the jet streams of the east. Here are the jet streams of the west. Doubled up jet stream over the eastern U.S. there. Surface winds of the western world look like this. Look at the huge meridional bends in the jet stream up here around northern Canada and Scandinavia. Huge bends in the jet stream there, bringing warm air to Norway and cold air into Eastern Europe. Here are the surface winds of the central world. And last but not least, the jet streams. And we're going to continue on with our meteorology segment. First, today's featured product is Mensa, which stands for Make Earth Not Suck Again. So act local and think global. It's up to you to make Earth not suck again. Start a conversation with some of our perhaps provocative merch. Our merch might be very provocative to people who are out of their goddamn minds. So, dear God, it's up to you to make Earth not suck again. Help us to do so by picking up some merch. Tell your friends and foes about the products if you like. Links below the video. And if you click those links, you'll also find them on the homepage at smashandmash.com. And if you click them, you'll find our Redbubble shop in order of best selling, which might or might not be considered controversial to you. It might be just basic facts. It might or might not reflect our political views. We don't really have any, though. We are apolitical. We are pragmatists. Another link you may find on the homepage and below the video is a link to ShoreMed. If you'd like all kinds of discounts, join the American Better Health Organization, a group focused on improving the health of its members. Personally, I think that the doctors by phone alone is enough to pay for the base membership. It's only a $20 initial enrollment fee and $20 a month. You can also get counselors by phone, virtual veterinarians, discounts of 15 to 50% on dental services, huge discounts on vision. The retail and mail order pharmacy will save you a ton of money also. The pharmacy discounts alone may pay for your ShoreMed membership. So check it out. It's a fantastic value. Links below the video and on the homepage to that. If you want to support the channel via subscription services, become a member of the Smash Team at the Gold or Silver level. Thanks to everybody who has. Gold and Silver Smash Team level members are executive producers of the content. And I'm not wearing the hat today, but I indeed have one handy. So don't forget to Mensa, support the channel. We make just this side of nothing to put the content on YouTube. Thanks to the Smash Team Gold and Silver level. There's also a Bronze level, which is free. Thanks for continuing to support us and increase the probability these videos will continue to exist, remain publicly visible, and free for all to view. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. We built our page back in 2019 because in 2018 a crack YouTube unit was sent to social media prison for a crime we didn't commit. We promptly escaped a maximum security social media stockade into the internet underground where we survive as producers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find the content, maybe you can hire the Smash Team. Chock full of facts are our videos, so press like, press subscribe, press share. Tell your friends and foes about us. Leave us a comment. Visit our playlists for videos unrelated to space weather. Check out the Diamond Anvil, perhaps. What about terms defined? Would you like to hear President Biden's legal jargon about the Second Amendment? Click on playlists and look at the terms defined playlist. You'll find that information. And let's take a look at some stuff that'll anger some flat earthers. It's the Himawari 8. Yes, the Himawari 8 satellite. Let's get rid of the shorelines. Oh my God. It's a photograph of a spherical planet. Oh noes, you're believing NASA's lies. Oh noes, there are no photographs of the planet except these. And thousands of other ones that are taken daily by the GOES, for example. Let's continue on here to our weather.gov map. And huge amounts of, what is that, freeze watches? Freeze watches over almost the entire state of Tennessee, the entire state of Kentucky, large portions of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, West Virginia. Hard freeze warnings there in parts of Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, Wisconsin. Frost advisories in northwestern Pennsylvania. If your county's lit, click your county. That's, again, weather.gov. So we're going to bring up some forecasts here. They were not available during show prep, so we'll bring them up now. This is your temperature forecast, since that seems like it's going to be the relevant feature. So some very cold temperatures intruding deep into the southern U.S. as Canadian air is thrust southward by jet stream activity. So there you go. Looks like it's going to go down into the teens in northern Minnesota and North Dakota. Here is your temperature anomaly forecast to show you how much below normal a lot of those temperatures will be. And let us know if a low temperature record is set in your area, or if a high temperature record is set in your area because you're in some place like Washington. Also some very hot temperatures there in Maine. So huge variations happening there in the temperature. That's temperature anomaly in degrees Celsius based on the GFS model for the next 72 hours. Some very cold air coming to Texas as well. Continuing on, it's time to check the snow forecast for the Great Lakes region. This is the European model. We're going to advance this into Wednesday. And it looks like by Wednesday, portions, according to the Euro model, portions of the Upper Peninsula expecting nearly a foot of snow. That is October 19th. If we zoom out, a bunch of snow there expected in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Also some snow in the southern and central Rockies. And let's continue on. Some heavy lightning storms happening here in places like Oklahoma and Arkansas especially. Moving into Louisiana, Mississippi. And let's check a real-time lightning map to see if there are any active cells while we stream. And indeed there are. Some heavy lightning here in northeast of Dallas. Quite a few strikes happening there. There are the thunderclaps propagating. That cell south of Commerce and east of Greenville. Heavy thunderstorm there. Those cells look like they're moving to the south. Very concentrated storm there. Got a significant line there of lightning. That's the last hour. Lightningmaps.org. Next time you hear thunder, check it out. Next, we're about to close this mother out. We've got our ground-based Doppler radar systems here measuring vertical motion of water droplets. Heavy precipitation there in southern Alaska. We're going to focus on the lower 48. Here is clouds and fog at 3.9 nanometer radiation. And here is water vapor. You can see that cold air moving down from Canada, colliding with that moisture and creating some massive pressure gradients. Let's zoom in on that strong series of storms there. Some of those could be producing some high winds. Quite heavy rains there in large portions of that. There is clouds and fog, 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation, and the water vapor should clarify things. Those are going to be moving pretty steadily here to the east. They're getting a little bit of a push there, but not a very strong push, so they're going to be moving pretty slowly, it looks like. In any case, thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists, and may that solar wind be at your back. Opinions expressed in this video are not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted name in news.